By now, if you've been watching my channel for a bit, you obviously know that I'm Greek. And so there are some issues when you become a Muslim that may come up that you need to deal with. Okay, so one of those things are the holidays. We just finished the Christmas holidays and the Easter holidays. It's very easy. In fact, it's easier to go with a program and follow what everybody else is doing because you don't want to have an argument. You don't have to have an argument. You could just be very subtle about it. It can range from not being able to make it, having alternate plans, being direct. And at all times, you have to remember that you have to be kind and polite. You can't be rude to your family because you've decided to change your religion and they're not on board with it yet, okay? So a big thing for me for a while was, am I going to make curambiedes? Am I going to make tsurekia? Am I going to make kulurakia? Am I going to make my favorite, melamakarona? The problem with making all those things is you are eating them. That is the big problem. That is the biggest problem. All the other problems, you can slowly deal with them. In the beginning, those are going to be big issues. Attending, not attending, halal versus haram, all those things are going to come up. And in the beginning, they will seem really, really big hurdles to go over. However, there are some things to remember. Now, as far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's not haram to celebrate birthdays, although how it's got to this point, it's crazy. I believe it's a sunnah, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me. And if you have an alternate answer, a correct answer, a more correct answer, please comment down below and let me know. However, we're not supposed to celebrate other birthdays, and you can totally see how all the birthdays, one after the other, or the extent to how elaborate they can get you into trouble. The most important trouble that you really need to stay away from is Allah not being pleased with you. So that is my stick. That's a stick that I use to measure everything. So for me, birthdays were not a big deal. They weren't a big deal when we were growing up from my parents. My sister and I had very close birthdays, and my dad just bought us one cake for everybody. However, the other thing is all the holidays. So the Christmas holiday is, what are you celebrating? Because there are families that are blended families. One side is Christian, one side is Muslim. To celebrate or not to celebrate. Now, the stick that I use to measure, to me, says Christmas is shirk. Same thing with Easter. Same thing with all the other holidays. Now, granted, most people don't celebrate Christmas because of Jesus or however, even going around and saying Merry Christmas can get you into trouble with Allah, because you are basically saying Merry Christ celebration. And the context of that is that they consider Jesus, peace be upon him, blessings upon him, as the Son of God, or the, next to God, part of the Trinity. And that's shirk. Shirk is the number one rule you cannot break. That is the worst thing you could do. Shirk is the worst thing. So if you're saying, oh, it's not a big deal, I'm got a Christmas tree up, or first of all, that's pagan, or I'm doing Christmas presents, that's pagan, or if I'm visiting people and we're having Christmas dinner, that's all shirk. Whether they celebrate it as a part of the Trinity, or Jesus, the Son of God, or some pagan ritual, it's still considered shirk. And Christians and Jews, the number one commandment that they cannot break, or they shouldn't break, or the number one commandment that they need to observe, is not to give partners to God. Hear, O Israel, thy Lord is one. One. Not three. One. Now, I'm not doing this as a judgmental type thing. I'm just saying, I'm laying down this for the Muslim homies, okay? Shirk is the worst thing you could do. That's the stick you should use to measure it by. So if the things that you're doing for Christmas or Easter or Valentine's Day, whatever it is, you're giving partners to God. Saints, for example, Saint Valentine, All Saints, all the other saints that we have, Saint Francis and Saint John, and those are all part of the shirk. And that's the commandment that Jews and Christians should observe. Number one, that's the first commandment. I mean, they're in that order for a reason. And the same thing for Muslims. Shirk is the number one thing that Allah will not forgive. If you die, God forbid, on your way to your Christmas party or on your way back from your Christmas party, you're in big trouble. You're going to have to answer for that. Shirk is the unbreakable worst thing that you could possibly do. So by all means, go and make your kurabiedas and kururake and churekia and melomakarona. Go ahead. They don't have to be done at Christmas or at Easter or St. Valentine's Day or whatever. You could make them any time of the year, bearing in mind that that's not a good thing. However, you always have to keep in mind another thing, another part of this, another aspect of this is standardizing these holidays in your household, in your family, as part of the things that you do every year. And of course, your family that is not Muslim have come to expect that you're going to be doing these things and being a part of these things. And it's kind of hard to unring that bell. It's kind of hard to roll that back and say, hey, Mom and Dad, I can't come to this or that or the other. Oh, but you've been here 15 years so far. You've been coming to Christmas parties or Thanksgiving or whatever for the last 15 years. What's changed? Okay? Of course, we all change it and hopefully improve over time. But shirk is the worst thing you could do. And don't forget that at one point, we're not going to have a Quran. So all those customs that you've established in your household, they might be there to stay. And you won't know where one cultural thing starts and where your religious things begin. I know plenty of people who have a Pakistani background and their parents or their grandparents still have some of those Hindu cultural things that they used to do, and they think that they're part of their faith, but they're not. It's the same thing with being Greek Orthodox. It's all well and good if you want to make some cookies, but you don't have to make them at Christmas time. You don't have to make them at on Easter time. You could just make them whenever. I hope it, at the very least, it made you think that just because your significant other is not the same faith as you, it does not mean that you have to participate or make your household participate in shirk activities. Shirk is the worst thing you can do. And don't try to minimize. Educate yourself, read about it, even if it's uncomfortable. But don't try to minimize how bad it is when you're celebrating Christmas. How bad it is if you're celebrating Easter time. It's bad. And that's the hallmark that we have to stand by. That we cannot take things for granted, take things lightly, make fun of things, or make things seem unimportant. Shirk is the most important thing to remember. Don't commit shirk. Do not break the first commandment. That's my 2 cents for the day. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you have a lovelier weekend, in spite of the fact that it's raining. I live in Canada. And may Allah keep us all on the right path. Assalamu alaikum.